Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester, and thank you for joining us for episode 143. Tonight, we'll give you our player and match analysis of Wolves' abysmal performance and results at Fulham. We'll talk about Vitor Pereira getting sacked. Bit overdue, I think. Take your questions and look ahead to Chelsea. I'm flanked by my two regulars in the form of Nocky and Tyler, and I'm delighted to have BBC WM's Daz Hale join us once again.
This looks like the crappiest ever game of Guess Who, by the way, with you.
We'll be like, has it got no air? Well, that's half the game gone, hasn't it? Daz, yesterday, Saturday, absolutely abysmal performance, questionable team selection, but your take on Fulham 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0.
By the way, I think it's worth pointing out that I'd agreed to come on here before what's happened today. You asked me on Thursday, didn't you?
That's absolutely not true. Daz was phoning, but no, it's not true.
I had. It was everything you've just described it as, from the team selection to... It was the first real performance, or well, not performance, first real time you can see by the body language that the players weren't into it. And even as horrific as it was against Burnley, at least they fought back from 2-0 down. And even when they went 3-2 against Burnley, they nearly scored, but for that brilliant save from Dubravka. The other night against Chelsea, they fought. You didn't see that fight. And for him to come out afterwards and say, well, they were mentally exhausted from the Chelsea game, where only two players who started the game actually featured in it. And I think it was obviously the team selection and leaving out Andre and Joe Gomez, the two players you should be building a team around, by the way. Neither of them to get in. And you could just see all wasn't well. And I think the moment for me, we said it on air, that you knew he was done, was in added time when Wolves have a free kick. They load the penalty area. The Wolves fans are ironically calling for Sam Johnson to come up. It's on the halfway line. They tap it to Joe Gomez, who turns around and slowly dribbles it all the way back to the Wolves penalty area. I mean, he might as well have just been doing this as he dribbled the ball to the dugout. And you thought, then that's it. He's done. So it was absolute toilet, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Nocky, the one thing we talked about on his looking for change and mixing things up, the one thing we couldn't understand with the change was the starting 11 he picked. You can understand there's an argument for sometimes Gomez and Andre, they can't play together. If you're in a 3, you could argue it works better with Andre. If you're in a 2, it probably suits Joe Gomez more. But to leave them both out and to lose 3-0, it's just football suicide.
It didn't make any sense to me. And we had the last game in the League Cup when we played Everton and we won that match. And those players were then carried over into the league game because of the performance. And I know we didn't beat Chelsea, but we were much improved in the second half. And a couple of those players stood out. I mean, you look at Moller Wolf. I've not been his biggest fan, but he got himself 2 goals and he was relatively solid. So I thought he could come into the team. I thought Tolu looked much more of a threat than Strand Larsen had all season, but he doesn't get a go either. And then to not play Andre or Gomez, I think if you play one of them, fine. If you play them both, fine. But if you're not playing either of them in a game like that where you know you're probably going to get overrun in midfield, I just didn't understand that decision. It felt like a manager who was either panicking or wanted out. And I'd like to think that's not the case. But it felt like he was looking for a way out. And that team selection to me it almost felt like match fixing, really, when I looked at the team. I mean, you come into the game and you're thinking... As negative as we are on this podcast at the moment, because I've got a great deal of choice, you always think there's a little chance, there's a little bit of a sniff. Maybe if this drops for us, we can get a result, or maybe something can happen. As soon as you saw that starting 11, you were just absolutely deflated. You knew the game was up before we even kicked a ball, and you shouldn't be going into games with that kind of mentality. I don't want to be too harsh on the players, because I think there's a couple that, for me, are hiding. But I think the majority of them just aren't good enough to play at this level, and they're not good enough to play in the system that he's trying to put them in, and it just isn't working, isn't it? So it was a disaster, and it was a really sad performance for me because of the way that we approached it, because of how easy it was to score against us, because of the mistakes again, and we're repeating the same mistakes constantly. It was just such a demoralising day, and it's been an absolutely soul-destroying season so far. But hopefully after today, maybe we can start putting things right a little bit, but there's a long way to come back from this.
No, Tyler, onto the team itself. We brushed up on it then, but what's the actual thinking? You're playing a centre-back in midfield. I mean, we've all talked about Marshall Monetzi. His numbers sort of pass completion and passes attempted are nowhere near it. Bellegarde was really good last weekend, so I think he's the one that deserves to be in there. But to put a centre-back in centre midfield, yes, he's played there earlier in his career, but to do so at the expense of Andre or João Gomez and then bringing Totti into the team, it was absolutely incredible just to see that lineup.
For me, it was, I think Marcus touched upon it, and I think I tweeted it either one game or 2 games ago. It's a manager for me that's trying to, make his exit, trying to get sacked basically, because there's no other reason for it. And I've come on here and I've been critical about Gomez and Andre, and I don't think they've been good enough, and I don't think the numbers have been good enough. But like the fellas have said, as a minimum, one of them plays, and realistically, they both play every week. Probably that shows where we are as a team, that we've got no options to replace them. But they're your sort of first 2 names, aren't they? And I think we've talked on here about the spine of the team, and those 2 are just in it. And Totti, what's he done to deserve his call back into the team? Nothing. Agbadou again was just another disaster. You can analyse it till the cows come home, but for me, that was a manager that was looking to get out of the current situation that he's in. I think his post today around thanking everybody at the club, bar the fans, I don't know if that's a little bit of a dig or a backhanded dig at the supporters, but I can't remember in football a turnaround of being so popular with the fan base to then being so negative with the fan base. We've had O'Neill, we've had J-Lo, we've had Large, and they've split opinion. 6 months ago, Pereira was a hero in Wolverhampton, and now he's the villain. And I can't remember a turnaround that severe in my time.
Yeah, Daz, it's been an incredible drop-off. But I think we'll go on to Vitor Pereira when we do that separate section. But just keeping back onto the game, you've got 5 at the back and 3 in midfield. The one thing that should offer you is some structure and being solid. 9 minutes in, Wolves were a goal down.
Yeah. I agree with everything that's been said, and I actually thought there was a case for starting Agbadou yesterday, because he was one of those who did do better in midweek. But again, it was an absolute car crash, wasn't it? And I know that there's an argument that, well, Vitor Pereira, had been trying different things to try and get a result. But my argument would be, well, I think that's half the problem, that they were making 5, 6, 7, 8 changes every week, different systems, and he couldn't have. I think he thought that 5 substitutions every week was a target rather than an option. And but when you think back to when they're winning at Tottenham at half time, and all of a sudden he changes the system there, and obviously what happened against Brighton, and he just, well, look, for me, when he took over, the mess that the club was in very similar to now, and he came in, and I think we'd all agree that he's got a terrific amount of charisma. He's got a terrific amount of personality, and he came bounding into the club, a club that was really down, and straight away you're 3-0 up at half time at Leicester, and there's an immediate buy-in, isn't that? And everyone's up, and then they carry on with that momentum. There's this terrific new manager bounce. Unfortunately, once the new manager bounce has gone, and as a result of that bounce was brilliant. It absolutely kept Wolves up. You started to see it towards the end of last season.
Yeah.
You saw it pre-season when everyone's going, "Oh, pre-season don't matter." The results, it weren't the results. It was the fact that what we were watching, and it's carried on into this season. And my personal belief is that once you scratch beneath the surface, there actually isn't much there. There isn't much substance with him, and this is now in the top league in the world with the best coaches in the world who were just too clever for him. And that makes you then start to look at his career and think, well, is this what he does? Does he just go into places with his one? I say he's a nice bloke, and he comes in and he really does lift everything. But once that's petered away, I don't actually think there's much else underneath. And I think he's been found out, and I think he's realised in recent weeks that he's out of his depth. And I do wonder whether he has. Maybe, I could go and get a nice little job in China or wherever, or Saudi, nice little payoff here, not have to spend Christmas in England getting beat every week. And I just think that at the end, his heart wasn't in it. And you do wonder in the end whether he was thinking, "Oh, just put me out of my misery, please."
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with any of that. There was a sign of that, and I'm not sure. I could say he looks like he was picking a team to lose, but some of the tactical thinking behind it, Nocky, what was going on, just really hard to fathom where he was going. I understand if it's not working, and we've all been very critical of this show. If it's not working, repeating the same things, we've all been very critical of that. But the things he should have changed, like Jorgen Strand Larsen starting, he didn't. And the things he shouldn't have changed, he did. There just seemed to be a manager at the end for that last, I'd say, probably 3 or 4 weeks. He just looked lost.
You mentioned tactics there, didn't you? And that's one thing I think that we've been badly lacking over for the first 10 games of this season. I mean, you look at the press on Saturday. The press was just all over the place. We went at the wrong time. We left so much space for the midfield to get onto our back line. There was gaps everywhere. One person pressed or 2 people pressed or no one. It was just an absolute shambles. And there's no clear identity. And Tyler's raised this on more than one occasion that the identity just isn't there. You don't know what we're trying to do. You can't see a clear strategy. You don't see a vision of what we're trying to do. And we've played teams this season who sole objective was to get the ball into the crossing positions and either win throw-ins, they can bomb it in the box or just deliver. That's an identity. It's a way of playing. We tend to bimble our way up to the halfway line and then we'll make a little approach in towards a penalty area, not really know what to do. So we'll recycle it back into our own half and eventually someone will get bored and just drill it 50 yards at field. And tactically, it's an absolute shambles. And look, there's some mitigation around some of the stuff that's happened. I think, the squad's been decimated, hasn't it? And the players we brought in haven't been good enough. But I fail to agree with anyone who says that he's getting the best out of this group of players. There's more quality in this team than we're seeing at the moment. And tactically, it's a shambles.
That's the key. And by the way, these players are the players he wanted.
Yeah.
He wasn't given these. They were offered a number of other players. And these are the players he wanted. He didn't get all the ones he wanted, which might actually turn out to be a blessing. But these are his players. And then you look at it, and even on Saturday, he started John Arias. Might as well played the invisible man for 15. Started Krejci, who I like, and even his confidence he's dropped a bit. But I
shouldn't have been playing in midfield, though, Daz.
Yeah.
Should have been in midfield.
Chacho can't get in. Yeah, they're playing Keanu Hoover, who they've been trying to sell for the last 3 years ahead of him. Tolu can't get in, 22 million quid. Fair Lopez, 20 million quid. Don't get a sniff. And then you mentioned Molovov, 10 million pound. Didn't get on the pitch, did he? I don't think. He might have gone towards the end, but there's no defence for it. It's untenable.
Absolutely. I know we all really want to talk about it forever. So let's just go through this team really quick, and then we can get stuck into the manager situation then. Tyler, that lineup. I mean, we've sort of preferred Sam Johnson recently, but what I would say is you've got to look at Sam Johnson for that first goal for me. I think if you're getting that much of a hand on it, I think you've got to do a little bit better. It's gone straight through him.
I personally don't blame him because if someone's firing a ball at your body, and it sounds stupid, but as a goalkeeper, if it's close to you, that's half the problem. If you've got to stretch and save it, it's almost easier in a way than it being close to you. I'm not putting any blame on him. I'm putting blame on those 2 clowns at centre half that between them couldn't cut out a simple pass. Agbadu either has to go and smash everybody and take it, or he sees that his mate's cutting it out and he drops back 5 yards. You're talking Sunday morning stuff that I'd be telling my 13-year-old lad how to play. Genuinely, that for me is the level at that goal. And teams don't have to do a fat lot to score against us, do they? Let's be honest. We don't get done.
They don't have to be overly creative. It's this.
No, I mean it's one of the most ridiculous goals I've ever seen.
Wasn't Sessegnon playing left back as well? And he's one-on-one.
And Hoover's nowhere to be seen either, is he? So it's just a shambles. And I saw Johnston get stick, and I don't think he's the long-term answer. I'm not sure he's a Premier League level goalkeeper. I can't get my words out, but for me, he's a championship journeyman goalkeeper. But we've seen what the equivalent is in Jose Sarr at the moment, and you might as well stick Knocker in sticks. So you're sort of talking the best of the bad bunch, aren't you?
Yeah, I thought he was Wolves' best player, Johnston, even though I take your point, Ryan, he probably could have done a little bit more on the goal, but he made some big saves in the second half. And I like the fact, again, he came out and
Fronted up, yeah.
Well, he owned it, didn't he? He came out and owned it. And as much as he doesn't fix it, it's nice to see someone own it. Not that it makes it any better, but at least you see
They're
someone.
the goalkeeper. They need a good goal.
Yeah, they're telling the same story as what we've seen. Daz, moving on to the back three, Toti Gomez out of nowhere back in the team, Agbadou back in, and Santiago Bueno as well. And it was not a particularly good day for either of those defenders, for any of those defenders.
It was an absolute shambles. And they looked as if they hadn't worked on it. And I don't know whether they had. I don't know. It literally looked as if they just got off the bus and go, you can play there today then. It was chaos. Absolutely.
Do you know, this isn't a note of sympathy to either of those three, but considering the engine of Menezes and obviously Ladislav's an international football, Bellegarde, considering you've got three midfielders in front of them, I don't think any of those three offer the back three protection at all.
Right.
The gaps in between the midfield and the back three and the three centre backs, if you've got like a back nine there tucking in, you should be really hard to break down. They were just walking through, and that for me is a massive tactical own goal. With Andre, I don't think that first goal goes in. Maybe even with Joe Gomez, but when you've got Andre there, just tucking in front of Agbadou, just squeezing out the gaps, I don't see it happening. So there's
a basic shape that coach, whoever it is, comes in. I know you'll get onto that. It's fundamentals. It's stuff that you said it yourself, Sunday League football. A half decent coach will make that team more resolute, more disciplined, harder to score against. And then maybe you can start housing a few horrible 0-0s, 1-0s and just keep yourself in it, because it ain't that difficult really. But it's just what we're seeing at the moment is, as I said, it's just a shambles, and the players look absolutely lost, and they look broken now as well. I think
which is incredible, because the second half against Chelsea, they looked a confident team that believed. The drop off in a few days has been quite remarkable. That the energy wasn't there, the desire, that sort of smashing into a tackle, it was gone. It was a flat performance of a team that didn't believe. That looked to me, they didn't believe what the manager was telling them.
It sounds silly, Ryan, but did you see that video? It's a little thing for me and it's minor, but the video of them that Wolves put out of them getting off the bus to go to the ground, and that all of the players genuinely looked like they were going to a funeral.
Yeah.
And whether or not they knew already, you don't know, do you, sometimes, what happens at this level? But there was nothing, Ryan. There was no bounce. There was no smile. There was no character. The players, like Dad said, they looked broken. And you know, as Dad said, it's untenable. I know you want to come on to it, but I was watching that video before the game thinking, Christ, is this how bad it's got? Because they looked like they were close to tears, all of them.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Brown. Not far wrong.
Noki, moving on to Emmanuel Agbadou. Talk about his red card.
Here we go.
Now, I've saved this one for you, Noki. I've been a massive fan of Agbadou, but I don't know what's happened to that player. There's clearly a good player there, but I don't know where it's gone, whether it's a system, whether it's the manager. That guy for 10 or 15 games last year looked like a Champions League centre-back. We thought, what a player we've got. Now he's gone from looking like the best centre-back to probably one of our worst, if not the worst. Noki, Agbadou's red card.
He's just so clumsy. He's so full of errors. And, you know, you could talk there was potentially a handball in the build-up. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But what I don't understand is why he's committed to the tackle when the ball becomes loose. For me, that is an all-or-nothing moment when that ball's running loose. You either have to win the ball or you're going to get sent off with the kids through one-on-one. I want to see my centre-half almost give up possession there, show him the outside and just make sure you're goal side and make him do something, make him beat you. To jump into a tackle like that you're 50-50 and you can't afford to be 50-50 in that area of the pitch. It's just not good enough. It's really poor defending. And he has gone downhill, but you talk about those 10, 15 games where he was really solid. There's been a hell of a lot more games where he's been absolutely awful, where his levels have just fallen off a cliff. He's given away a goal in almost every game he's played this season. So he can't just be confident. It's positional sense. It's switching off. He's not being alert to the dangers that are around you. He's not tracking your man properly. He just seems to be all over the place, doesn't he? And it's a real shame because when he came in, I was quite critical of him. And I thought I was wrong because his performance has really picked up. But the centre-half I'm seeing now, I mean, it's the whole back line though, isn't it? When we brought on Yerson Mosquera and he ends up planking one in his own net. And I know that wasn't fully his fault, but a few minutes later, when they hit the post, he was robbed when he's trying to let the ball run out of play. You look at the mistakes Jackson Shah was making. There's just so many errors in that back line, and we just concede far too many goals. I mean, what's that? 10 goals in 6 days we gave away. It's just not sustainable at this level. And for me, he's a massive problem. I think if you're going to go to a 3 at the back, it's fine. But you spoke earlier about the space between the midfield and the defence. I don't really blame the midfield for that. I blame that back line because they were so deep. They were almost stood on top of Sam Johnston, and that wasn't allowing the fullbacks to break up because there was no space in around them. But there was so much space for Fulham to play in. And Jimenez, being the kind of player he is, he dropped back 5 or 10 yards, picked up that space that we just left alone, and he was picking passes and he was just creating opportunities for him. And that's where the opening goal came from. So it's the basics, and we spoke about the basics. We're not doing those basics at the moment. And if you're as poor as we are, you've got to do the fundamentals right, and we're just not doing it.
Great stuff from Nocky there. Tyler, moving on to another problem area of the pitch. The wing backs, Kearney Hoover and Hugo Bueno. And I want to start off on Hoover, and I just...
You're better talking about him than me, mate. You're better
I just
talk about the crossfield ball if you can.
Yeah, I just don't understand what Nocky's been telling me about Kearney's crossfield ball that almost ended up in the Thames. I just don't understand. I know, is he an athlete? Yes. Has he got good pace? Yes. But I don't recall ever one of our wing backs having such a limited ability to cross a football than Kearney Hoover. Chachua isn't the most technically gifted footballer, but the guy can put a cross in. That he can do. I don't understand it. So for me, again, this is another massive managerial own goal. I don't know why he's in the team. I don't know what he's seen. I don't know what he saw pre-season. He played every pre-season game, and every time he gets to a great position, because he does get himself in good positions, but it's no good if the quality isn't there when you get to it. Time and time again, he gets in a great position, it hits the first man, or he's wanging at the other side of the pitch. I just do not get it. Tyler, tell me about Hugo Bueno.
Did he play?
Quiet one, wasn't it?
I'm with Nocky, and you're talking about buying players. He's talked about Moller Wolf. And let's be honest, Moller Wolf's not Roberto Carlos, is he? He's not. But when you scored 2 goals on the Wednesday night and you can't get a game the Saturday, what's the point? Genuinely, what's the point? And Hugo, I saw a stat actually. To be fair to him, I think he's created the second most attacking
from his crossing,
contributions this season. So his stats are obviously decent, and I do think there's a footballer in there, but he was poor on Saturday, and they were all poor, but he doesn't offer you a defensive solidity, and he doesn't offer you anything in the final third, and he sort of flatters to deceive in both boxes, which again I've talked about on here numerous occasions about how poor Wolves are in both boxes. I think he's neat and tidy. I think if he played for a better club than Wolves, he could probably make a career for himself somewhere, but I just don't think we're suited to him or he's suited to us ultimately.
Just tactically on that one, Tyler, just for one final thing, in this sort of 5-3-2 setup, for me, the 2 most important players are the wing backs, because they're the ones that provide you width. They're the ones that are the overlap. They're the one that puts the delivery in. There was nothing from either of them the whole game. So technically, if you're a back 5 and there's no quality, you're going to invite a team on and you're going to get beat.
Yeah. So it's one or the other, isn't it, Ryan? It's a back 5 and it's a 5 and you're hard to beat. And like Daz says, you house a 0-0 or you house a 1-0.
And that's fine. But just
so you either do that or you play the 3 and they're bombing on and you create things. Wolves do neither.
Yeah, terrible. Daz, moving on to the midfield 3, Ladislav Krejci appeared to be the holder. Marshall Monetza, not too sure what he was doing, and Jean-Luc Bellegarde.
I'll say I like Krejci. I don't think he affects the... Again, he may have been a victim of circumstance, and also he's a centre-back, being, again, fish out of water. The other 2, Monetza, yes, he runs and he doesn't hide, but he desperately lacks quality. And, I mean, I thought Bellegarde played quite well against Burnley, but it shows how far they've dropped, really, doesn't it? When that's your midfield, where not long ago people like Vitinha and Morgan Gibbs-White couldn't get a game for us. It's right.
Yeah, I just think it was such. I don't know if it was a roll of the dice, tactical naivety, but you've got to have one of your dogs in there just to help protect the back 3, start things off, come and collect little triangles. to have an out of position centre back, Marshall Monetzi, like you said, I think he's a very honest guy and does his best, but he's very limited. But he seems to always got a game under that manager. And Bellegarde wasn't great, but after his performance last weekend, deserved to be in there. Now, Knocker, moving on to the forward line. Tell me about Jorgen Strand Larsen.
Oh, here we go.
I don't understand why he was in the team, because I don't think he's offered anything all season. I think there's been talk about him being injured. I don't personally think that's right. I just think that he's either not interested or not as good as we thought he was. He doesn't win enough aerially. He doesn't physically hold the ball up. He doesn't bring in the other players around him. He doesn't really offer you much of a threat. I mean, there was one opportunity where the ball came in and he was up there for a header and he just got bullied out of it, and Krejci ended up heading one down into the goalkeeper. I just don't think he's physical enough to really impact us at this level. So for me, I would have been bringing in Tolu, because I think although he gave the first goal away against Chelsea, he's going to occupy Bassi a little bit more than Strand Larsen did. I mean, Strand Larsen spent the last 2 weeks in Championship back pockets, hasn't he, because of that performance, and you're putting him in against a seasoned big unit at the back for Fulham, who's used to Premier League football and used to dealing with players like him, and he never really got a kick, did he? So I would have started Tolu, and I think when Tolu came on, he occupied him a little bit more. He was more direct. He drove at him a little bit. And he wasn't great, but he gave us more than Strand Larsen. I'm really disappointed with Strand Larsen. I've said that I think that his performances have been cowardly, and I stand by that. I think his performances have been cowardly this season. I don't think he stepped up when he should have done. He's now one of our so-called seasoned pros, our experienced players. He's the one that you want now taking on the mantle from Acuna, but he's not doing it. He's hiding at the moment. So for me, it would have been Tolu for me, and I think judging on that performance, I was probably right to think that.
It looks like he's in, doesn't he? And like, I don't understand is that he's got this Achilles problem, we're told. So why was he allowed to go away on international duty? And he played, I think, the last 15 minutes of Norway's first game. He played well over an hour of their second game. Well, if you're not fit and you need treatment, why is he going away and playing for his country instead of having treatment at Compton or wherever he could have his treatment? So that didn't add up. But he's sulking. He didn't get his move. You can tell now that he's throwing the toys out the pram, and he's just not putting it in. And I mean, there was the one you mentioned, Hoover, the one decent ball he put across just before half time.
Should have thrown his body on it.
But he was on his heels. And I can understand him being frustrated because he's not getting much service, but it's difficult. His body language, I think, has been appalling in recent weeks.
But that was a sitter, that was an absolute sitter. And I don't think it was a bad ball at all. I think if he commits, he scores. But he's on his heels. I don't know if he's worried about messing his hair up. He just feels like he doesn't want to get involved in stuff at the minute. It was, even with 10 men, if you get back to 1-1 at half time, you've then got a chance to really batten down the hatches, go to a solid 3 and pull your wing backs back and drop your defensive line, your midfield line a little bit. You've got something to defend. And that's the problem we've had. We're very easy to score against, and we just don't look like a threat at the other end.
Last but not least, Daz, while we're on you, John Arias. Now, I was really excited about John Arias.
This won't take long.
I was really excited about him in the summer. Big star of the Club World Cup, lots of assists, creating things. Looks a real player. Every week now, he gets less and less effective. At least before, you had flashes of something brilliant. I just don't know what's happened to him, whether he's got lost in the system or he's not as good as you think he is. But great, really good footballers, don't turn into poor ones overnight. So something for me is really wrong.
And he was the player that the manager really did push for this summer. He's done nothing. I mean, he was obviously his free kick against Burnley. If that goes in, it might be his moment where it kickstarts him. But I mean, you were suggesting that maybe 1 or 2 players might be hiding. I don't know whether he's hiding, but they clearly don't trust him. They don't give him the ball, and the game's just passing by, and he just doesn't affect matches. He's anonymous, and so again, I'm afraid he looks like a waste of money right now. Unfortunately,
it's a real concern. This is episode 143 of the Wolves Report with me, Ryan Lester, BBC WM's Daz Hale, Chris Tyler, and Mark Knock. I'm going to put one message up about this. I'm going to get it over and done with. Talk about the elephant in the room. Anyone else thinking Ryan should keep the tash until we win 3 on the bounce?
I quite like that.
No, I'm not committing to that for any amount of money. I had a
You're
fancy
probably
dress.
dead before we win 3.
I had a fancy dress party last night. It was part of my outfit. You know what? I thought I'd keep it today for the fun. It ended up being on Sky News. Enjoy laughing at me. It's going tomorrow. So, Andy, no, I'm not taking you up on your bet. It's not happening because Wolves aren't going to win 3 on the bounce.
What did you go as in the fancy dress party?
I was a circus master.
I thought it was
Which
Freddie.
is appropriate, isn't it?
Did you, son?
What about for charity, son? Keep it going until we win 3 on a spin, and then
you can guarantee me £1,000 for the month. I'll do it. Yeah, how's that sound?
I'll have to borrow £1,000 off you, but yeah, I mean,
Andy, thank you for causing trouble on the latest show. Right then, as we know, early afternoon today, Wolverhampton Wanderers confirms that Vitor Pereira was no longer the head coach or manager of Wolverhampton Wanderers. I don't think this has come as a shock to anybody, but he leaves, and it leaves Wolves in a mess, repeating the cycle again. And for me, Daz, I think this is something that should have happened before now.
100%. Yeah. I mean, how you can give a bloke who's overseen the worst start in the club's history, 148 years, a 3-year contract, after giving a 4-year contract a year ago, and then said today that 8 members of staff of his staff, he had 8 members of staff. Talk about stealing a living. What on earth were they doing? So, look, I've got mixed feelings about it. As I said, he's really good to be around. He's got something, got a charisma about him, but they haven't won for over 6 months, and they're getting worse. So it's got to come, especially now he's lost the dressing room. So there's a sense of relief that I think for everybody, the fans, the players, I think for Vitor as well, he's been put out of his misery. But there's now a sense of trepidation as to what the hell they're going to do next, because you haven't got any sort of confidence that this lot are going to get the next appointment right. And I know we'll probably come on to that as well. So I just felt more relieved than anything today, because it's felt like a death by 1,000 cuts, really, doesn't it? And the thing is, if we're honest, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better as well. But now disappointment is not just for me, for a firefighter. Now this is next appointment. Has got to be one that they genuinely are looking at the next 2-3 years to stabilise the club and then build again from whatever division they're in next season. So this is massive now, this decision. If you get it wrong, it could be another double dip relegation in my money. It's that serious now. Yeah,
people keep saying, "Oh, we're on for Derby's record." Forget Derby's record. I'm more worried about being Sheffield Wednesday next year than anything else. That's the concern for me with the way it looks like the club's being operated at the moment. Nocky, Vitor Pereira came in, won 3 on the bounce. You and Tyler had a great day at Leicester last season. 3-0, we're off to a flyer. Later in the season, win 6 in the row. It's all looking good. So where did it all go wrong for Vitor Pereira?
I think he's kind of hinted at it himself, hasn't he? He's apparently come out and said that he probably should have left at the start of the season. So that maybe tells you that his heart wasn't in it. Look, we lost a lot of players, didn't we? I mean, we lost so much quality out of that team at the end of last season, and we've replaced them with substandard replacements. But then massive chunk of that is on Pereira anyway, because he had such a huge input in terms of who came in. Was it a case of he came in at the right time? We just weren't good enough. We were like now. It is very difficult to fail as Wolves manager coming in now, because we expect to be relegated. So anything you can do that gets us anywhere near, if we were to finish 3rd from bottom within maybe 5-6 points of safety, you probably had quite a successful run as Wolves manager. So I think he came in at a time where we'd repeated the exact same mistake. We'd given Gary O'Neill a new contract when we were on a horrendous run. Sacked him, brought in Vitor Pereira. Started really well at Leicester, and as you rightly said, me and Tyler had a great day out that day. We were fabulous. We played some lovely football. The 6 in a row, I thought some of our football was exceptional when we played, and we had a bit of a swagger about us. We had a way of playing. We had an identity, but we also had a Mateus Cunha, and we had a Sarabia, and we had a Semedo, and we had real good players like Aitnori who could affect games. The players we brought in haven't been good enough. The style of play isn't there. And I don't know whether he got into a point where he thought, I'm going to try and do something a bit different now. I want to put my own spin on Wolves as opposed to just firefighting, and it's all fallen down. But I think there is a reason that he doesn't stay anywhere for very long, because I just don't think he's at the level he needs to be at to sustain a position past a year, really. And it's a shame, because he is a likeable guy and he did do well for us, and we would have been relegated last season without him. But we've just fallen down again. And it's not the first time that a manager's failed in his second season. So there's a bit of a pattern emerging, and you have to, of course, look at Jeff and Fosun around this as well. But it's just a disappointment that it's ended like this.
Yeah, Tyler, is there any sympathy, looking at Paul Somerset's message there, that back then we had Cunha, Reina, Nouri, Semedo, Sarabia. We're talking about really good footballers. And as mentioned, I know I talk about Cunha, I don't particularly like the way he left. His football ability and talent and his match-winning skill was second to none. Goal from nothing in any game. Ryan Nouri, a constant get out of jail pass for anybody. Toti's get out. I mean, it's badly exposed him. Nelson Semedo, you don't know what you've gone until it's gone. Fantastic defender. And Pablo Sarabia, who's capable of coming on and impacting the game. You take all of that out of that team and replace them with lower level footballer. Do you have any sympathy with Pereira when it comes to that?
No. If you include the transfer fee for Strand Larsen in the summer, I think Wolves spent £140 million. Poor recruitment. It's got nothing to do with losing those 4 players. It's the fact you haven't adequately replaced them. We've talked about this on here before. Wolves aren't the only club this season to lose their star players, to lose their best players. Brentford have done it and look a better side for it. Bournemouth have done it, they look a better side for it. He just hasn't spent that money wisely. £140 million for me can get you 4 to 5 really, really good footballers, even in this market. We've spent £10 million here and there on average fullbacks. We've probably overpaid for Fair Lopez. God knows what that deal was. We've overpaid for Jan Arias that Daz has mentioned. Krejci's the only one that you look at and think, yeah, he's got something about him. So no sympathy from me whatsoever. I'd have sympathy for him if he lost those 4 players and wasn't given any money. He's lost those 4 players and spent £140 million, and we're worse for it.
His argument was that he wanted them in earlier, and I can hear that, but we're in November now and they're still not in the team. So yeah. I don't understand that. And I mean, the club, and it's easy, isn't it? And I think we all do it. That I think it's quite often when things aren't going well, we all look for one person, a scapegoat, and more. It's genuinely more often than not a lot more nuanced than that, isn't it? It's a collective balls up, isn't it? No, they knew in January that Cunha was going to go, and he was going to go early. They knew that Nouri was going to go. They knew that they weren't going to keep Sarabia. They knew it was likely that Semedo would go. And then you look at Sunderland, who were the last team in England to know what division they were going to be in.
Yeah.
They went up at the end of May, and from a standing start, because they hadn't been in this league for years, in no time at all, they went out and they brought in 13, 14, 15 players. Obviously, the headline one being Granit Xhaka. Obviously, we hear now that Harry Wilson could have come to Wolves. Obviously, he stuck his fingers up yesterday as well. You look at the way Sunderland play, it isn't exactly cultured, but they, again, going back to an identity, they know what they've got, they know what they are. I mean, Pereira was moaning about them having long throws and being physical and being brutal. And well, actually, that's how Wolves caused Chelsea problems the other night, by exactly that type of football. So it's poor recruitment. And then it's not then getting the best out of the players that you have got. And don't get, I mean, I know I've moaned on here before about the whole Tommy Doyle thing, who's now pulling the strings for Birmingham City. How you can allow a player to leave on loan without bringing in his replacement first is just criminal negligence for me. So I have absolutely no sympathy with any of them involved here. But unfortunately, it's us lot who are having to suffer it, watching it.
Nocky, we are on a cycle though, and we've talked about this a lot. But before this, we've had Gary O'Neill, we've had Bruno Lage, we've had Julian Lopetegui, and now it's happened with Vitor Pereira. There seems to be a cycle, as Tyler mentioned earlier on. It happens, and here we are again. This can't be a coincidence. All these guys, yes, a lot of them have done things themselves, and they've probably been tactically naive. But there's a pattern emerging, and the pattern keeps repeating itself. And here we are again. For a few years now on the podcast, you talk about circling the drain, and you reap what you sow. And Wolves deserve to be where they are now because of how, for me, the football club is operated, how they deal with the managers, how they deal with the transfers. This, for me, this problem stems from the very top.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I think Tyler's touched on a really good point around he spent 140 million. But year on year, we've become incrementally worse. We're spending less on wages. We're bringing in lower quality players. And managers come in and they want to know that they can start kicking on and they can push us forward. We're not doing that. We're trying to do the Southampton model where you keep selling your best players and then you bring in a load of young players, like a Fer Lopez, who'll probably be really good in 4 or 5 years, but he's no good for us now. It's a self-sufficient model that can work when you've got the quality to replace. Like we had, we lost Jota and we had a Pedro Neto to come in. You've had a Cunha to come in to replace players. We lost Ruben Neves and we had a João Gomez come in. You've had players of similar quality, but not quite as good as a player you've just got rid of. You only need a season like this where the replacements fail and it falls on its face because we haven't got that level of quality. And you look at the other teams who played this season, every team this season's played us off the park, really, haven't they? Even Burnley played better football than we did because they've got a shape, a pattern and an identity and they've got good players in attacking areas. We just haven't got that. So I do look at Fosun for it. I think that Fosun and Jeff Shea, the way they've pulled the belts in, has badly affected us and it's caused us to be in this position now. When you look at some of the quality you had when we came up with Neves, Jimenez, Moutinho, players like that, Adama Traore, we had some genuine quality and we had options from the bench. There's just nothing now at all. We can barely put a competitive 11 together.
Yeah, sorry. But the difference this time as well is that all those players you mentioned, when Neto was brought in, he didn't have to hit the ground running because
exactly that, yeah.
Him, and so he was dripped in and out, in and out, in and out. Ryan Aït-Nouri had Johnny Otto in front of him. So again, you could gradually just introduce him, playing him in a few of the cup games, 20 minutes in, gradually bed him in. And there's plenty of other examples of that as well. And even when Cunha came, if you remember, after he came in January under Lopetegui, 40-odd million. And by the end of that season, people were saying, well, what is he? What does he do? He's only scored 2 goals. And it took him a long time to get in, but there were other players ahead of him. That isn't the case anymore. So these have come in. And again, this is down to, this was their decision to bring in players who've never played in this country before, who've never played at this standard of football before. And with no safety net, they have to hit the ground running. And unfortunately, some of them, well, one of them has, I would argue Krejci has. The others, nowhere near. And will they ever? I don't know. But the point you've made there about Lopez, he probably will be a really good player, but it won't be when he's at Wolves because he'll probably end up going back to Spain or somewhere and be a Ballon d'Or contender in 5 years' time.
Well, we'll see with Fabio Silva, no doubt. Now, obviously, Vitor Pereira has departed, and that means there's a vacancy. Now, the question is now, I mean, it's early doors, but these are prices courtesy of Betfair. Now, there is a big surprise contender at the top of there, the one I was certainly not expecting. So far it reads Gary O'Neill, 10-11, Rob Edwards, 4-1, Rui Borges, 4-1, Brendan Rodgers 7-1, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer 17-2. I know they're very early prices. Obviously, Wolves only party company this afternoon, but Nocky, some interesting names on that list. I mean, I'd like to expand the list a little bit more, but let's just first of all, actually, Tyler, Gary O'Neill. I don't. Now, you two have called Gary O'Neill all kinds of names on here, and some of it's probably warranted, some of it's definitely not, but. Surely you break it with your girlfriend, yeah. You did it for a reason, and why are you going back like a year later? It doesn't make any sense to me. Do you know what? I think you'll go on to have a good career. You know what? I think he'll be fine. But coming back to Wolves after like the fallout there, for me, it makes no sense. Yes, some of the players may like him, but we didn't like the football or the direction of travel Wolves were going in. So for me, reappointing Gary O'Neill will be absolutely crazy.
Yeah, but the problem is it doesn't surprise you, does it, with this lot? I think Gary O'Neill is an excellent and articulate coach. I genuinely think he is. I don't think he's got the gravitas and the character to manage a Premier League team. And I think Dave Bodison's made a good point there. O'Neill openly admitted he tried everything he can and got the most out of this squad. That was a squad with the players that Daz has just reeled off.
Significantly better than this one now.
Exactly. So you have to look at that and think, surely not. I've been on my phone while this has been on, and Rui Borges has already ruled himself out, apparently, and I think this list might start to look a bit different in sort of 24, 48 hours, because if you're a manager worth your salt, there's no way you come to Wolves. I'm sorry. And there's a reason O'Neill's top of the list, because he's not employed at the moment. He knows the club. He probably knows most of the players. He knows the culture. Rob Edwards, Michael Carrick, I've seen mentioned it. Why would you? You know, I don't see the pull of the law of coming to Wolves anymore. It sounds bonkers. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see Gary O'Neill in that dugout. So genuinely, I think I know, but it wouldn't surprise me, Ryan.
We're still paying him, aren't we? So it wouldn't cost us anything.
We're still paying him. He can probably carry on. He's probably still got a car parking spot. He's probably still got all his gear with his initials in. Makes a lot of sense from a Fosun perspective. Brendan Rodgers, no chance.
No.
Solskjaer, don't see it. Ball's ruled himself out. Edwards, there's links, isn't there? Because he's been here.
When you're he's more likely to be in the Premier League with the club he's at now next year.
Exactly. And Noki's mentioned Muscat, and Muscat, although we don't know what his credentials are to manage at this level, he'd get us going a bit, wouldn't he? If we're being honest. He'd get you wanting to watch Wolves again, and he'd get you excited. But I think it wouldn't surprise me if it's O'Neill.
I think he's been on a similar kind of career path to Postecoglou. I think he's worked in Australia. I think he's worked in the Asian leagues, and he's working his way up. He's Muscat. I think he's kind of taken that kind of career path. Now, Daz, been Muscat.
Robbie King's another one who's he won the double in Israel. I think he's at Ferencváros now, and he's doing well there. Another name that had been mentioned to me was Corberan, who went and produced a similar miracle to what's needed now at Valencia. Although this season, actually, they're back in the bottom three again. So that's another one. He's a defensive coach who they were interested in him last time round. It's interesting that the Gary O'Neill link's been leaked out there, and I wonder whether it's been leaked out there to gauge fan reaction. I think it's one poll. I see it might have been the Express and Star that had 2,500 votes, and 89% of fans said no, thank you. So I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't rule anything out or in or out with this lot, would you? That's the worrying thing, and that's the trepidation I have, is trusting them to get it right. And talking about the long-term future now, and this is where it gets even more interesting, isn't it? So do they now go for the proverbial firefighter again and hope that yet again they can do another Houdini act and the cycle continues? Or are they now actually looking at the bigger picture and going, you know what? There is it's really likely now that we will be in the Championship next season. So do we now bring in a manager and say to him, look, it's likely we're going to go down. Obviously, do your best, try and keep us up, but bed in, and will I be making an appointment with one eye on trying to get straight back up next year? And maybe it's too early to talk like that, because I don't know, because it's already 8 points, effectively 9. So it's interesting to see how they're thinking and how far ahead they're looking now. I mean, when it comes to recruitment, they will start bringing in more homegrown players now.
I think you've given them way more credit than they deserve there, Daz, talking that far ahead. No, I know what you're saying, but I think you're giving them way more credit.
But this is what's going to be interesting now. Is it going to be another firefighter to try and get them out of jail and then you're back to square one? Or are they going to actually look a little bit further ahead and have an acceptance of the reality of where the club is at right now? I don't know the answer to that. I quite often hear the cliche about, for instance, Wolverhampton Wanderers is still a Premier League club for now, and the Premier League's the best league in the world. A lot of managers will still want to manage in the Premier League. A lot of managers will still think, I can be the one to keep them up, because that's the ego of it. And I often hear the thing about, they wouldn't want a relegation on their CV. Well, if you're in a normal job and you're applying for a job in a bank or HR or whatever, I can buy into that theory. But this is the Premier League, the most watched league in the world, and everybody knows the situation Wolves are in. So if somebody were to come in now and they went down, you're either going to go, well, it's your fault they went down. There's a greater, bigger knowledge of what's actually going on at the club. But the ego of most managers would be, you know what? I could do this. I could pull off a great escape here. I could be a hero. So it's. I mean, we all think, oh, who want to come to Wolves? Well, it's still a Premier League football club for the time being, anyway.
Nocky, with the complex way that Wolves work and the relationship with Gestifute and the director of football that was sort of brought in by the manager, and bearing in mind Jeff Shee's method of working, which I'm not really sure what it is, who's actually going to be most critical in terms of recruitment for this new manager?
You'd assume it's probably going to be Jeff, isn't it? He's the one who's going to make the final yes/no on it, you'd assume. I don't know. I mean, the list isn't particularly inspiring, is it? I think we may end up with a Gary O'Neill on default at the end of this. And I think Daz has made some really good points around it's still a Premier League club, but people also know it's a Premier League club that will cut their cloth as much as they possibly can. And it's a great idea to come in and build something, and then next season you can have a go. The self-sufficient model in the Championship frightens the life out of me, especially when we're paying back a loan of 90 million quid. It's a massive ask to come in and save Wolves. I don't think it's doable personally. But then next season, you're going to lose all the quality that you've got left. So I think we'll be in a similar position we were a few years ago, where people keep turning us down and we end up with almost a Gary O'Neill by default.
Tyler, this for me is a big problem. Now, I'm not sure how the policy is going to work. We've had bigger characters. When Nuno fell out with Jeff, Lopetegui fell out with Jeff. So when you bring those established big characters in, they eventually will speak up, and these owners, these custodians don't like it. Is there a danger that they bring in someone that's more of a nodding dog yes man, someone that we probably haven't really heard of, that's grateful for the job more than wanting the job? That for me is the biggest danger. And now, I don't like saying it, but that's exactly what I think they'll do. I don't see them being able to pull any big characters in, regardless. So my concern is it'll be another sort of yes man figure that's great for the job, as opposed to somebody that's like, yeah, I really want this.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think you can rule out Gary O'Neill. I think he's a yes man. He knows how Jeff operates. He knows how Fosun operates. On with Nocky, I don't see the list being that inspiring. I think Conseil Sal's been mentioned, but again,
no chance.
Why would you want to come here? And I also agree with Daz. I'm sort of contradicting myself. I also think his name has been thrown out there to test the water and see what the replies would be. But
I just think it's such a crazy link. I know.
But Ryan, is it crazy? He's out of work. He's free to employ. There's no compensation. He knows the club. He knows the model. He knows Jeff.
But most importantly, he's already failed here with a better squad than he's got now.
But let's not forget, though, that they were desperate not to sack him last time, weren't they? They were desperate not to sack him. They gave him a lot longer than they probably would he would have got at any other Premier League club. So they've already got a bit about him.
Don't let logic get in the way, because it's a basket case, isn't it, this club now?
And there's also a reason, Ryan. He's, people, there's Wolves fans that still rate him as a coach. I know I have a bit of a ding-dong with musings, as a few do, but there's a reason he's not got another job since leaving Wolves. There's a reason for that, because he's not good enough.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of jobs for the Championship, League One.
It's a terrifying thought to bring in a manager that couldn't get the best out of a squad that was way more talented than the one they've got now, to bring him back in, because
who would you go for? I can't sit here now and give you a name of someone that I think will come and will make us better. I can't give you a name.
No, but just for, I mentioned this to Mike Taylor when I spoke to him earlier on, just for absolute chaos and to make it fun and give us some fight, I'm going to give it to Muscat, because I don't see. Say that again, Daz.
Better. Can anyone make us any worse? I don't think they can.
I don't know. I think Gary O'Neill would be a contender at that. But with Kevin Muscat, we know. I don't really know his managerial style, but I know the character he is. You know what he offers. You know what I mean? There'll be copious amounts of housery, and if anyone, a motivator, can get the most out of probably a very average squad, a squad that's underachieving now, it will be that kind of character, because Wolves will be horrible to play against. And we need that because we're a soft touch still, particularly a soft touch without our Brazilians in midfield yesterday. So for me, for that alone, I've not done a lot of study on it, but
no,
if we're going to have a fight, team, give me Kevin Muscat.
Yep.
You've given me a name and I couldn't think of one, so fair play.
This is episode 143 of the Wolves Report BBTWM's Daz Hale. He's got a stick-on moustache. Thank you, Daz. Mark Knock, Chris Tyler, and myself. I said we'd stop doing that now. We said we'd stop it now. We've all had our fun. All right, thank you. Right, something else that popped up I thought was really, really interesting. Charles Ross, who has quite a while questioned Jeff Shee and Fosun. It turns out he's been probably right all along. Charles goes on to say the board structure, composition and competence is at the core of WWFC's problems. Only one executive director, Chairman Shee, who's been in situ since 2016. The club is only 1% of Guao's Fosun's turnover, and a culture where listening and learning are wholly absent. I think this is an absolutely fantastic tweet. Daz?
I've got a lot of time, a lot of respect for Charles back from the Allowed Ball days. Yeah, I mean, when they do their annual report, Wolves hardly ever gets a mention, but there's a reason they've got Wolves. I'm not quite sure what that reason is. Now, I think it's also worth mentioning that a number of the top brass from Fosun were there at the Burnley game, so they've clearly got something going on in their minds. They are on their radar. Maybe they were planning this. Maybe it's the takeover talk. I really, really don't know.
That takeover talk, Daz, all right, I just think that's far too convenient. The day after an absolute stinker was sort of linked with someone else buying us, or to try and make us great. I mean, I wouldn't want that guy taking over Wolves. And almost sort of like a convenient leak to show that someone's after you the day after. It stinks. I just think that's the media machine at full play there.
Yeah, maybe, but going back to the fact that their whole host of hierarchy from Fosun were at Molineux for that game. So just making the point that whatever that interest in Wolves is, and they clearly have some interest for them to all come all the way over to Wolverhampton to watch Wolves against Burnley on a Sunday afternoon. So they are.
No need for that.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. One question though, before I move away from this though, and I'll come to you with this one, Tyler, or Nocky, I don't mind who. At what point does Jeff Shee's position become under threat? Because we've all been saying, and you guys have said, you know what, as long as he's keeping them in the Premier League, he's doing his job, they're happy, that's all that matters. Wolves are 1-6 on to get relegated now. So at what point is his job under threat? Because he's responsible for this mess, in my eyes. This is the structure, the planning, the forward planning, the lack of planning, the scattergun approach, the lack of future vision. This, for me, is all on him. And I just don't understand someone who's running an operation this poorly with this continuous drop-off in the last few years is still in charge of a Premier League football club.
I'll let Nocky take it.
Personally, I don't think he's in any risk at all. I think as long as he wants to be here, I think they'll leave him here, to be completely honest. I don't think there's too much interest around his role. I'm sure he'll have plenty of scapegoats that he can throw under the bus when we do get relegated. I don't believe there'll be an appetite to get rid of him. And I'm not tuned into Fosun, so I don't know. They may have a completely different thought process, but I think the only way he goes is when he tells them physically he's had enough and he wants to go back home.
Yeah, I just don't understand how he's in position with the continuous mistakes, the drop-off, an asset that's probably worth now 350, 400 million pounds. It goes to the Championship, you can halve that, and you've got a 90 million pound debt in the second league. I just don't understand how anyone could be seeing that. I mean, I never really had an issue with Fosun. Now the more time's going on, if you're letting an employee of yours do such a bad job, then you've got to start looking at the owners as well. This is episode 143 of the Wolves Report with BBC WM's Daz Hal, who you can catch on weekdays from 6 till 7 for the football phone-in. And you can also check on Nocky and Tyler occasionally on the football phone as well. Let's move on to some questions. Just a quick thank you, by the way. We are our Sunday evening live show, currently 2,820 5 live viewers. Your support is very much appreciated. If you look at that little thing on Nucky's face there, if you are watching for the first time, please drop a like or a subscribe on our YouTube, Facebook, X or Spotify, which will be uploaded to afterwards. Thanks again for your ongoing support. The show is continuing to grow and it's very much appreciated. Let's bring up some questions. Another one about my moustache, but let's just do it. Can you tell us when you're appearing on Panto season? There's no way you're having that magnificent facial hair for fun. It's just, I wish I hadn't done it now, Moff, but
you and Jeff can go in Panto together.
Oh no, he didn't. But anyway,
vote now, yes or no. Should Ryan keep it or shave it off? Text in now, tweet in now.
say the WM. Do that on the WM number, not mine. The people on the night show now will be getting texts coming in about kind of stuff.
Before you go to questions, Ryan, there's been a few questions added as I've been watching. What happens to Teti now, do we think? Daz, do you know anything about that with the structure?
So the man who's been mostly responsible for this awful recruitment, is he now in charge of recruiting the next manager? That's the question. The club didn't let us know today. They just said 8 of his staff have gone. Don't know.
That's a really good point. But I guess now we're going to find out, because now he's not working for his mate anymore, and now his role comes into play fully now because he's not.
He'll be gone. He'll be gone quicker than your Tashbot tomorrow morning, son. He'll be gone.
There's just absolutely no need for it. Let's have a look at some of these questions. Just on to yesterday, Borley says fans 10 out of 10, players 1 out of 10. That's been generous. I mean, the away end again was magnificent, like it was. I think when you went to Sunderland, Tyler, it's at that sort of stage now when the old songs come out. Again, you know it's over when the old songs come out. Nuno had a dream, we've got Neves, and it's telling. And like the first time properly yesterday, I think quite often the players have been confused of being what's been asked of them. Yesterday was the first time I thought, well, I can't be asked for this anymore. It felt like they're just completely. Honestly, that's what it looked like that yesterday.
I'll just say as well, because I was with Mike Taylor at Craven Cottage, and he made a great point towards the end that obviously a horrific day, 3-0 down. Everybody stayed. Normally an away end or even a home end, 3-0 down, game over. It's half empty. Everybody stayed in that away end till well after the final whistle, which I think is, again, massive kudos to the supporters. In put in a bit of an awkward position as well, was they kept chanting his name. He was having to keep doing a little wave. But the Fulham supporters were thinking, what's going on here? And he came over at the end as well. But that was terrific from the Wolves fans away. Not only did they sing all afternoon, but then they stayed to the end. Maybe to give Vitor a bit of stick, I don't know, but credit.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's that time, isn't it? We mentioned it, where it almost makes it a better atmosphere away from home because you're blasting out some songs from start to finish because the team are giving you nothing. So you know what? You've paid your money, you've travelled down, you're going to enjoy your day, you're going to reminisce. And I think it's a sad sign that it's come to that again. But Borley, thank you for your point. Let's try and bring in a few more of these questions. Question now for Ryan. Who will want this role knowing how toxic the club is? But this is another really important point as well. So Jeff Shee over the last year has basically said, if you want trophies or European football, maybe the club isn't for you. He's also sent out some crazy emails responding to fans, and then went out and publicly knocked Nuno, calling him lucky in our most glorious spell in all of our lives. So with that in mind, gents, who's going to want to take that on board? Because although it's a Premier League job, which you said, Daz, and people will be after them, working for a chairman like that, how are you going to get anyone of any reasonable calibre when they're coming to work for a club like this?
We're about to find out, aren't we? By the way, Jeff did say it'd been a good transfer window and we'll be pushing for Europe this year as well. Said that on the 4th of September. Time will tell. And of course, they have managed to lure quite a number of good managers here. It's then the goalposts tend to get moved once they've signed on the dotted line. So I don't know. It's fascinating, but I think this is bigger than all the other appointments they've made, this one, because this is now, we absolutely are staring down the barrel. And I think most people are already resigned to the fact they're not going to be in this division next season. So look, Wes, you mentioned the Southampton model earlier. Look where they are now. They're flirting with League One. Their grounds are proud return.
Well, look at Norwich. You look at Norwich. Yeah. You look at Southampton. These are recent Premier League teams of a similar size to us, getting the late 20s, early 30,000s, similar size, similar fan base. If you don't do it right in the Championship, if we continue to operate like this, Wolverhampton Wanderers will be looking at a double dip. I'm not saying that just to be dramatic. Look at the clubs being badly operated. That could be us. It could be happening all over again. Knocker, I can see you taking breath and gritting your teeth on that one.
No, I agree with everything everybody said. I think, for me, I don't think we'll go for a manager who's currently in a role because we probably won't want to pay the money. We're going to be knocking around the free transfer market for managers, aren't we, essentially? And it's such a shallow pool of people who are going to want to come here, isn't it? So I don't know. It's not a great environment. You've got Jeff Shee, who kind of runs amok, who does a lot of stuff, but no one really knows what he does. And your budget's going to be cut, and your legs are going to be cut from under you. So is he going to be an up-and-coming manager? Is he going to be someone who comes in for a bit of a payday? We'll give you 3 million quid to keep us in the league, a bit of experience. I don't know, but I'm not inspired by it. Normally, you're a bit excited by a new managerial appointment. I'm not inspired by this one at all because I just expect us to get it wrong again.
It's just that, and you've nailed it there, Nocky. It's all trust and faith has gone in getting any decisions right. The structure there now, again, there are some really good people at Wolves that do a fantastic job, but the person at the top of the club, I do not trust him to make any good decisions. Kevin, thank you for being part of the latest Wolves report. It's a bit of fun. We can all give one answer each on this. JA87, the leadership can't even get the pre-match music right, never mind the recruitment and academy. Let's say you have the ownership of today. You were the ownership of the club today. What decision would you make in your first week? Nice question. A little bit of fun, a little bit of light-hearted. Tyler, what would be the first thing you'd do in your week in charge of Wolves?
I'd implement a senior leadership team that knew what they were doing. And I'd bring in a director of football, I'd bring in a commercial director, I'd bring in 2 or 3 people at that level that knew how to run a Premier League football club. You don't want to go on about history and where we are and where we've been, but since Dalrymple's gone, we've never been the same. We've never really had a proper footballing director of football. So that'll be my job. And even if I wasn't the most competent person at doing it, and I don't think Jeff Shee is, but what he can do is put people around him that are... It's like the Prime Minister, isn't it? You don't have to be the expert on everything, but put people around you that are...
If you don't know anything about what you're doing, you surround yourself with people who do, you still take the credit anyway.
Yeah.
It's so simple. But they could also do deciding who the captain's going to be as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. We've had about 5 or 6 on it.
Would that be your one, Daz? Will you decide who the captain's going to be?
There you have first, leadership, proper captain, proper manager, proper captain, and absolutely get the liquidator back as well.
Oh, you've stolen my one. I can't believe you've absolutely done me.
It's a tongue-in-cheek question, Ryan, but it's leadership off the pitch and on the pitch.
It's a very valid question because there's so much wrong. We could draw a list off here, but it's a little bit of fun from a terrible 6 months. Nocky, what are you changing in your first week in charge of Wolves?
I think always Wolves touched on it. I'll probably buy a guillotine, to be fair. But if I had to make a decision, if I had to make a decision and I was owning the club, I'd get rid of Jeff. He'd be the first one I'd do, and I'd bring in football people to make football decisions.
Absolutely. As Daz stole the liquidator, which was an easy answer when I read that earlier on. For me, and I know this is an easy one to say, and you say we can't do it. Do you know what? I'd reprice things and bring back all those fans, those local people, those long-time fans who've been pushed out. Now, we're not selling out the stadium every week because the football's atrocious. So let's change it. Let's get those people, get on the phone to those people who've gone, and offer them a reduced season ticket, to get them back in. You know what I mean? Let's get the people back supporting Wolverhampton Wanderers again. That would be
are you giving the current season ticket holders a bit of money back then in that case as well?
I'll get a discount off their season ticket next year to balance the books.
One more. Is it okay if I paint the roof of the John Island? Sorry, the Steve.
No. We can't do that.
There's only the rust holding that stand up at the minute, Daz, so you can't go painting.
I wouldn't mind. They started painting the Billy Wright stand a year and a half ago, and they've still not. I don't know if it's one bloke who's got one little brush who's doing it like that. I don't understand. He's like, honestly, I sit in the North Bank and I look and I'm like, why is it not finished? What have you run out of paint? Is he on holiday?
Having trouble with his emulsions at the moment. Leave him alone.
Yeah, we're all in trouble with our emotions and emotions. We are almost at the end of episode 143 of the Wolves Report. 3,116 live viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. Gentlemen, next weekend, Wolves travel to Chelsea on TV. What a lovely game to go to when you're stuck on confidence. Daz, this is going to be a tough one. Now, this is really difficult because we've got no manager. We've got the youth guys taking charge of the team. So I don't know how we're going to set up. It could be completely different. But we've been no disrespect. We've been here before with Steve Davis, and it was a tough time, and they did their best. So this is a concern for me. For me, next week, Daz, do you go and have a go? We're expecting to lose anyway, or are we going to stink the place out and actually have holding midfielders in front of the back five and not a big hole?
Probably the latter. And just as I said before, I really think that in my heart of hearts, since the Leeds game, I thought we're banging trouble this year. So it depends who's in charge. If you've got the new manager at the helm by then, it might feel a bit different. But otherwise, I literally would just go and make it as horrible as possible. But it's, I mean, Strictly Come Dancing on at that time as well on the other side, or
Lockie's got it on record. It doesn't matter. So, just on that though, gents, this just raises another quick point before we go on to the predictions. Is there any point really in the new manager coming in for the Chelsea game? That's an absolute horror of a game to be going to. Do we want a new manager in rush that, or are we going to take a little bit of time to go and get it properly?
100%. Get him in as soon as you can. All of the fixtures are disgusting.
Yeah.
We've had a nice start. I think we played Chelsea, Villa, Liverpool, United twice, Arsenal, all before Christmas. Palace. You just need to get him as soon as possible. And I'm with Nocky. There's no way for me in a million years that anybody can get us back out of it. But if you do start to see a bit of progression and a bit of, positive,
it's unlikely, but you never know. I just want
100%
you need him. Get Danny Craney on the pitch. The last time it was 21st of November 1983, and they hadn't won.
I wasn't born then, Dad.
And they won a 3-1 at the Albion, 2 goals from Danny Craney, 1 from Wayne Clark. That was the first.
Can they still play now? Emil Strand-Larsen.
It's good for Albion. He still can.
Nocky, this is a horrible away game to go to. No confidence. Again, it's a sold-out away end. Are we...
someone's just put Steve Cooper on there, and I'm thinking, oh Christ!
Oh, I'm not taking Steve Cooper.
I don't think you can pick a team because we've got no idea who's going to be coming in. Do we? If it's going to be someone who's been in and around it, you'll expect us to be very similar. I don't think anyone would risk 4 at the back. I think they'll probably go with 3 centre halves. Probably drop Krejci back in there, and just try and. Obviously, Andre and Gomez have to come back into this because you're going to need them to be very busy. But I don't see anything we can do that's going to stop the flow and the tide that's going to come from Chelsea. They've got so much pace in that team. They've got pace on the wings. They've got power through the middle. The midfield's solid. Defensively, they're pretty good as well. So I don't think it makes a great deal of difference what we do. If it was me, I'd go as deep as we possibly can, try and make it horrible, and maybe you can...
Sitting in the shed.
Maybe you can break. But, I mean, the problem is you're going to have Strand-Larsen up front, aren't you? And, he can't deal with low-level centre-halves at the moment, so you're putting him in there against an experienced Chelsea back line. He's not going to get a sniff, is he? So I don't see any way we score, and I don't see any way we keep him out.
The one, I mean, this isn't hope, by the way. I'm just going on what I saw last Wednesday night. We got underneath Chelsea's skin in that game. They were rattled. Now,
we were 3-0 down at the time, though, weren't we? I mean, the game was dead and buried at that point.
So, and that's fair enough. But they brought their big guns on. They were rattled. They were kicking us. They were elbowing us. Now, that's the game for me. Yeah, that we need to be aggressive, proper 5-3-2. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm going to say it. Hwang's got to start up front down the middle with Tolo. It absolutely has to happen. That pairing looked okay. That looked like it might have something. Actually, 2 footballers up front that could pass the ball together. Hwang is always better down the middle. We know this. He's wasted out wide. It must be bad if I'm saying start Hwang. Start them 2 up front again. Get your Bulldogs back in midfield. stink the place out. For me, that's the way we go. It might be wrong. Tolu has to start now. He has to start. Hwang, I thought he did okay in the week in the cup. Actually, it's one of his better performances. Created the goal. So for me, 5-3-2, tuck in, lots of aggression again, getting in their faces. They didn't like it. They had to bring the big boys on to try and see the game out. They didn't like it. Let's do the impossible bit now and have some fun and do some predictions. So we'll go with your optimistic win. Talk with first, Tyler.
3-0 to Chelsea. And João Pedro will take him out my FPL team.
Oh, I definitely nailed him, mate. Tyler. Sorry, Nocky.
6-0 Chelsea, Pedro Neto the opener.
6? We're not that bad, sir.
I think it's going to be an absolute nightmare of a fixture, I really do.
I'm really looking forward to going down there Saturday night. I can't wait in the freezing cold. At least, I mean, last time I did go there, actually, one of the times I did go, I think we lost 6-0 in the League Cup. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
I think we were there, yeah.
That was an absolute stinker. Daz, any hope, anything for me? Just tell a lie, just do something.
One prediction is that you will definitely hear the Liquidator on Saturday, because you always do it, Sean.
Yeah, that's the one thing that we certainly have. My prediction is it's going to be bad, but you know what? Just give us a bit of pride and fight, and that they had done that in games, but not on Saturday. And I think a lot of the players need to have a look at themselves on Saturday, because that was poor show. So the minimum I'm expecting is all the basics I expect from a footballer: aggression, effort, desire. Just have a go, boys. Don't embarrass yourselves and don't embarrass us again. Thank you to BBC WM's Daz Hale, who's on the football phone on weekdays 6 till 7, and your football host for the Saturdays and Sunday games and evening games as well. Thank you to Nocky and Tyler for giving it your Sunday evening and being on each week. Gentlemen, up the Wolves.